So I've said all summer, all off season that I am super high on the Denver Broncos and I think they're going to win the AFC West division. And I get comments every single day from fans of other teams for some reason. I don't know why they're commenting on Broncos content. I guess they just are interested in what's going on. But they always say that, hey, look, Denver, I like them, but they haven't proven anything. And that's just simply not true. I mean, last season, Denver had the best defense in football in terms of EPA. In the preseason, yeah, preseason, I know, but still, they were number one in offense and defense. Denver won 10 games. There was some that got away from them. The Ravens game was at 41 to 10, and then the Bills game, which was pretty awfully similar, was 31 to 7. Denver, they're not a perfect football team by any means, but they knew what they did wrong last season, and they've gone out there and they've addressed it. And that's why I respect Denver a lot, and that's why I make videos on them despite living over in Connecticut, is because this team is on a mission. And you look at last year, what were their weaknesses? They couldn't run the ball. Okay, so let's go out and let's draft RG Harvey. Let's go out there and let's sign J.K. Dobbins. Julio McLaughlin, who made the 53 man, I expect to get a decent amount of work this year. I think he's got a lot of talent, and I think he's without question the third best back on this team, and that's why he's there. Denver had to make some difficult decisions. They had 5, 6 running backs competing for playing time, and they could only keep 4 of them. Receiving position, specifically on the outside, is they needed someone across from Cortland Sutton, and they got Pat Bryant, and his film has, man, is it fun to watch. You don't know how good Pat Bryant is until you look at the all 22, which means like all 22 players in the field that you can see them, and it stands out. I think Marvin Mims Jr. and Troy Franklin are going to have pretty fun seasons. But who I'm looking forward to the most on this offense isn't anyone I've even named yet. It's not Bo Nix. It's the offensive line is so good. It's the best in football. It was number one in terms of pass blocking. It was, I think, ninth in run blocking. But it's Evan Ingram. I truly think he's going to make or break this football team, and he's going to end up being on the thumbnail. And we saw he had that 58-yard catch against Arizona in the preseason, and then we also saw him have a drop like the next game. So Ingram, he can be kind of streaky, but he's just an absolute blur. He's super, super elite down in the red zone. He was actually ranked over Travis Kelce down there last season. He has to stay healthy. I don't think a lot of people know how good Evan Ingram is, and he's going to transform this offense because the tight end position was the worst in football. There wasn't anyone outside of Cortland Sutton. I'll put Marvin Mims Jr. like late in the season. He kind of got going. But again, that's weeks 12 plus. Like the previous 11 weeks, Mims wasn't really anywhere to be found. So Ingram is a true playmaker for Bo Nix to be able to find. He's going to be able to create after the catch. And then you've got, of course, like I said, Pat Bryant getting down the field 20, 30 yards deep and blocking. It's just so cool. Troy Franklin also has looked good in the preseason. I'm not trying to make it seem like I'm dissing these guys. Franklin had a great preseason, and I looked at his film as well. I think he could have a good year. I liked him a lot coming out of college. Maybe a little bit too much because, of course, he went to Oregon with Bo Nix, and he was a little bit slow. Yeah, my thing with Franklin is I liked him coming out of college, but as most rookies, he got up to a super slow start of just processing the speed of the game. And Sean Payton spoke about this having to ease him in, but now year two, he's going to be full throttle and ready to go. And Broncos' weapons are just going to be night and day difference to last season. In last year, it seemed like they were kind of just getting by. And I talked about this so much. I was like, Denver does not have enough at the skill position. Like, and everyone wants to blame Bo Nix, but what is he really supposed to do? There's no run game. Cortland Sutton's the only guy who can make a play, but they fixed that. And then defensively, they still were the number one defense, but they got exposed against the Bills. That's the thing. You get to the playoffs, these teams are going to expose your flaws and your weaknesses, and that's what the Bills did. Is they specifically targeted the middle of the field and they ran all over Denver. So Dre Greenlaw, of course, and they went out and they got Talanoa Hufanga from the Niners, and everyone's acting like, oh, well, these guys, okay, they're okay, they're solid. Denver didn't need all pro players on their defense. They just needed to fill in those gaps with NFL level starters who knew what they were doing. And because of that, now they've got even more depth. Like you look at behind Hufanga, PJ Locke, you've got McMillan. I mean, there's just so many different options to be able to work with. Chris Abrams-Drain is also a backup corner. Denver is carrying a lot of DBs, which I love because you can never have enough corners in the NFL. And then you look at, of course, Greenlaw. He's going to be the sort of the one guy there, but the linebacker position looks pretty deep. Drew Sanders is on the IR, but Justin Strahd's there, of course. You got Alex Singleton. Jonathan Cooper is going to wreak havoc. They've got to get him locked up. There's a lot of, so not a lot, but there's a couple more players that I want Denver to lock up. They've done a good job of it. But just the defense seems a lot more complete because last season they did deal with injuries, Denver, and they were able to make it work until they went up against the Bills. But the goal has to be the division because you can't expect a rookie Bo Nix to go into Orchard Park in Buffalo and be able to compete with Josh Allen. And, like, of course, the team lost. I mean, I didn't expect Denver to win that game. But now going into the next season, it's going to be about getting home field because the NFL, especially in January, if you're on the road against already elite teams and then they have home field advantage of the cold and the crowd, I mean, having the playoffs go through Denver, legitimately this team would have a chance because the Ravens and the Bills, I mean, those are the teams that Denver definitely is going to be looking to get revenge on. The Chiefs, obviously, after that deflating loss. But I know for certain that Denver has what it takes. And it's a lot of times winning a Super Bowl comes down to being lucky. Being lucky in the sense of staying healthy. If Denver can just stay healthy, they've got as good of a chance as anyone. Their defense is going to go toe to toe. And I feel a lot more comfortable about Denver offensively. Last year, again, it was just about Bo Nix sort of trying to make a play and to do a lot and a guy to wait for a guy to get open. But now it seems like they're more methodical and they have a plan and they're going to run the ball a lot more. And that excites me because why not get Bo Nix out of the pocket on the move off of a bootleg and just let him be an athlete and push the ball down the field. And yeah, Denver they just had nothing outside of Cortland Sutton. I mean, now they've got multiple guys that I trust and that I can feel like I can count on as a fan just to show up every single week. And I'm excited. And another thing I'm excited about, it feels like I'm getting into a sponsor. I'm not, but it's just about the feeling that I used to get when I first started YouTube. I started making NFL content back in 2020. And the reason why I bring that up is because I wasn't betting on games, wasn't betting on anything. I wasn't playing fantasy football. It was just the love of the game. And for the first time in years, actually for the first time since then, I'm no longer doing those things. So it just can't be about the Broncos, and that's all that matters. And I just can't wait. I think this is about to be an awesome season. And I've said it all summer, all off season. I think Denver's the best team in this division. I know that they have a lot to prove because the Chiefs have, the Broncos haven't won this division in over a decade to this point, about a decade. They do have things to prove, but every time we see the Broncos, they get better and better. Like Russ's last season, they got better late in the year. Last season, they won 10 games. I think now they take that next leap and they establish themselves as the favorites in the AL West. And the schedule is very soft to start, of course, because Tennessee Titans, they're taking on Cam Ward, who I think is going to have a great career, but it's still his first game, and it's in Denver. And then going to Indianapolis, not that the Colts were much of a struggle last season for us, but Daniel Jones is the starter, and that you don't have to worry about the deep ball versus like Anthony Richardson. And then at Los Angeles, versus Cincinnati, at Philadelphia. Obviously, that's a tough stretch, but then you get the Jets, Giants, and the Cowboys. So the Broncos can get off to a very fascinating start here. Even the Chargers, both those games were close. The Bengals game came down to overtime. So, but yeah, I'm actually out of battery, so I got to let you guys go. But thank you so much for watching.